Well, welcome to the 15th Annual CHOICE Breakfast of Humanitarians. I'm Bret Backman. I'm the chairman of the board of directors, and we are so glad to have all of you here. Thanks for joining us this morning. We've planned a program for you that we hope will educate, inform, and inspire you in your journey toward being a more engaged humanitarian. Our dedicated event sponsors who helped make this breakfast possible have all in varied ways contributed to creating powerful, impactful change. And we'd like to take just a moment to recognize and thank them. Our world sponsors are Grandeur Global Advisors and Pat and Florence King. And our village sponsors are VCBO Architecture, Interform, and Babcock Design. They are leading the way. Yeah, they're leading the way in building Utah's global humanitarian community, so thank you. Yeah, big round of applause to all of them. This morning, you'll hear the stories of 4 individuals whose lives are changed because of CHOICE Humanitarian, told by supporters who had the honor of meeting them. Those speakers will be Jenny Dewaal from Grandeur Global Advisors, Eric Morgan from Thrive Life, and Riley Greenwood from our own CHOICE Humanitarian, after which I'll have the honor to speak as well. You can see the faces of these 4 individuals from the communities we serve here on the stage next to me. Their names are Patrick, Daniel, Jeconías, and Sanjuana. I'm excited for you to hear more about them and their stories. We'll start our program in about 10 minutes with Steve Pierce, CHOICE's CEO, sharing an inspiring message about how we can truly live the meaning of the word humanitarian. Thank you.
Every day when we wake up, we have choices. But not all of us have the same choices. What to eat? Will I eat? What to wear to school? Can I go to school? How much water? Where is water? For billions of people living in devastating poverty, options are limited. But together, we can change that. For over 3 decades, CHOICE Humanitarian has been reducing poverty by expanding choice. When you give a community more choice, you open up possibilities for a better future. CHOICE Humanitarian works with and through rural communities to create sustainable change. Our approach is locally led, data-driven, and focused on impact. We are proud of what we've been able to do, but there is so much more that must be done. Will you make the choice to make a difference? Give today, change lives, change the world. The path out of poverty starts with choice. CHOICEHumanitarian.org.
Welcome again to the 2023 Breakfast of Humanitarians. My name is Steve Pierce, and I'm CEO of CHOICE Humanitarian. And I freaking love the breakfast. The food is good, but being here together with all of you is just amazing. I love it because I get to meet new people. I get to talk about choice. I get to dress up a little bit, put some product in my hair, and don't get the opportunity to do that too much. Before I get going, this may look seamless, but it actually takes a lot of work to put this together. And I have to thank so many people. I'm just going to call out a few of them by name. Kelly Martin, of course, our amazing events coordinator. Sarah Nelson in the back, who just had a baby, but she's here anyhow. She's responsible for all of the stuff you see on the screens. And then just all of our wonderful Choice USA staff and just the hundreds of volunteers that help us. We couldn't do this work without them, and I'm so grateful for them. And now down to business. In 1942, the city of Leningrad, present-day St. Petersburg, was surrounded by the Axis power armies in a siege that lasted for over 2 years. Over 1 million civilians and countless soldiers were lost during the prolonged battle. Famed composer Dmitri Shostakovich finished his 7th symphony in December of 1941 and would eventually dedicate the work to the citizens of Leningrad. On August 9th, 1942, the symphony was broadcast over loudspeakers from every home and assembly hall to the entire population, even loud enough for the German soldiers surrounding the city to hear. According to one soldier's account, that was the moment that the Germans realized they would never take the city. You see, the defiant broadcast of Shostakovich's symphony signaled to the invading army that the resilient citizens of Leningrad feared losing their humanity, even more than they feared hunger, the weather, or even the German army. The siege lasted for 2 years, but the city never surrendered. Dignity and humanity in the face of desperation. So right about now, I can see that many of you are wondering what the siege of Leningrad might possibly have to do with Choice Humanitarian. This isn't a history lesson. The connection can be found in the everyday resilience with which the people we serve cling to their humanity. I've seen the same desperation and dignity every time I visit Choice projects. In a mother's desire to feed her family a nutritious diet, in a father's heroic efforts to provide for his family, in a child's unfailing hope for school supplies, and in a village's relentless search for water. Dignity and humanity in the face of desperation. No, most of the communities we work with are not facing bullets and bombs, but they do face an existential threat of another kind: disease, poor nutrition, inadequate education, generational poverty, lack of opportunity. And yet, despite these overwhelming challenges, ever do they cling to their humanity. Let me expound on why the concept of shared humanity is so important to our work. In the field of international development, in my field, most of us draw a sharp distinction between development assistance and humanitarian assistance. One focuses on long-term sustainable progress, while the other provides emergency and disaster relief. I have spent almost all of my career in development assistance. So when I first joined Choice in 2020, I wasn't sure about the humanitarian in our name, Choice Humanitarian. While there have been several notable instances in which Choice has responded to emergencies, we are an organization focused on long-term sustainable development. Moreover, I'm enamored of the concept of choice. That's essentially what we do. We try to expand the range of choices available to the marginalized families and communities we serve. I've always been a big fan of the name Choice, but not entirely thrilled with the complete name of our organization. But I was wrong, very wrong. Let me explain. Several weeks ago, I met with a Colombian friend and mentor of mine in Bogota. As I introduced him to Choice Humanitarian, he commented on how appropriate our name was for today's development challenges. I agreed. Yeah, creating choice is what it's all about, I said. No, not choice, humanitarian. We must humanize our work. It all starts with our shared humanity and collective human values. He could see my surprise and went on to chide me for being such a structuralist. And I admit, I'm very comfortable talking about strategies and programs and outcomes and impact. But I pressed my friend, who's one of the most respected thinkers on development in Colombia, To help me understand why the humanitarian concept was so important, he patiently explained using his own country as an example. Colombia is a country caught up in decades of war and violence. Many talented and dedicated men and women, along with countless organizations, are working hard to cement the peace and help the country's many millions of underserved people find a way out of poverty and suffering. In spite of these efforts, peace and prosperity remain elusive for many regions of the country. For my friend, a wide acceptance of humanitarian values is the missing ingredient. So in my worldview, we are all part of a wonderfully diverse global community. I also believe that we are connected in ways both complex and simple. My friend's comments sparked a few questions. What does it mean to be part of the human family? What are the basic human values? And would a collective awareness and acceptance of these principles really make a difference? Perhaps the place to start is, what are the essential traits of a human being? What separates Homo sapiens from other animals is our superior mental development, our power of our articulate speech, upright stance. But do these things make us human? Drill down a bit more, and we find that as human beings, we have intellect, free will, and are capable of exercising empathy. This means we also have the ability to recognize, appreciate, and act on truth and goodness. We can reason, and to varying degrees, decide freely how we will react to different situations. In other words, we can choose from among options. For example, either to work for or to disregard truth and goodness. Let's build a little bit on what it means to be human and dig into the essence of human goodness. In other words, what does it mean to be humanitarian? The dictionary defines the word as concerned with or seeking to promote human welfare. Basic humanitarian principles such as empathy, connection, impartiality, and interdependence are fundamental to humanitarian action. The exercise of our free will to benefit the less fortunate members of our human family. Humanitarian principles inspire us to action, to address suffering, with a particular attention to the most vulnerable. As a general principle, CHOICE Humanitarian works among the most remote, underserved populations in our present countries, the most vulnerable. We work hard to expand the range of options available to those most in need. Last year, we celebrated our 40th anniversary. During the past 4 decades, CHOICE has implemented over 2,430 social and economic projects, impacting the lives of more than 2,820,000 people of all ages. But we're just getting started. I used to believe that where the echoes of the past meet the challenges of the present and the opportunities of the future was around the concepts of community and collaboration. CHOICE relies on community to do our work, on local partners, on our donors, and on all our wonderful volunteers. In fact, collaboration is not merely something we do, it's how we do our work. If we look beyond the how to the why, we see clearly that what has always defined CHOICE Humanitarian goes much deeper than approach and method. The heart of CHOICE is in our shared humanity and in the humanitarian values. It is often easier to focus on the purely technical aspects of our work, but good practice, no matter how effective, is only as sustainable as the principles and values upon which it is based. For CHOICE Humanitarian, these principles spring from the values that unite us all in our common humanity. The values expressed in our vision and mission statement, the values that guide our operations. Since joining CHOICE Humanitarian 3 years ago, I've had the privilege of meeting and working with hundreds upon hundreds of humanitarians, both in the US and around the world. Many of them are here with us this morning. I'm always amazed but never surprised by the generosity and humanity of the CHOICE family. didn't happen during rehearsal. Members of our community, members here today, have sacrificed and suffered great personal loss while in the service of others. Yet still they persist, recognizing that they have so much and others have so little. They share of their time, their talents, and their resources to relieve suffering and improve the quality of life for many thousands of our human families, most of whom they have never even met nor are likely ever to meet. And this they do without expecting any recognition or recompense of any kind from those they have helped. I believe it's all because they feel a kinship and a connection to humanity, and they seek to promote human welfare. And like the men and women who work for CHOICE, they see people everywhere for their untapped potential, and not merely as people needing help. These humanitarians are my role models. They give meaning to our work, and they ensure that this work will continue for as long as the human family and shared human values exist. Most of the world's countries, not just Colombia, are facing daunting problems: poverty, famine, disease, shrinking natural resources, and violence, to name just a few. It's all too tempting to reach for the nearest technical solution. After all, technology is advancing rapidly on all fronts. So why does it feel like we're... Somebody give her a raise. Why does it feel like we're losing the race? Perhaps it's because we simply need more of us to feel connected to one another, to recognize and adopt basic humanitarian values, so that the human and the technical can find common ground. I have a personal mantra that might even serve as the humanitarian call to action. Do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, with all the people you can, as long as you can. CHOICE Humanitarian. CHOICE Humanitarian. I love our name, and I fully embrace all the meaning that it holds. I will strive to be a better humanitarian. I'm not sure if this is what Shostakovich had in mind, but I invite you to join me. Thank you very much. So on to the fun stuff. And speaking of collaboration, CHOICE Humanitarian is privileged to work with corporate partners who are vital to our work and integral to our ability to achieve our mission. We are blessed by their generosity, we're inspired by their hard work and examples, and we're more effective because of what we've learned from them. For example, the bottom line mentality that businesses apply to their work has led us to adopt this same approach in CHOICE Humanitarian when it comes to results measurement. There must be a bottom line. There are numerous ways our partners invest in opportunities that uplift and inspire. They inspire their employees and those that they help. Some of these examples include corporate expeditions, payroll contributions, event sponsorship, in-kind expertise and products, and fair trade product sourcing. For their part, our partners tell us that these social impact investments have contributed to higher morale within the company and to greater employee retention. For these reasons and many more, I'm truly honored to present our Corporate Impact Award today. Eric, will you please join me on stage? Ten years ago, Grandeur Peak Global Advisors embarked on a path that has led to a lasting legacy with CHOICE Humanitarian. Over the years, they've engaged in numerous expeditions with their team and experienced rich cultural exchanges that have literally changed lives for both the employees and for the local populations. Their latest mission-driven commitment to support Navajo Nation, for example, will help reverse decades of food insecurity. And through building and planting of hoop houses, along with a return to traditional agroecology, Grandeur Peak will help break generational cycles of poverty and poor nutrition. So it's with immense pleasure and gratitude that Choice Humanitarian presents Grandeur Peak Global Advisors with the 2023 Corporate Impact Award.
It's way heavier than it looks. This is one of those things that strikes me as a very unnecessary kind of honor. Like we got into Choice Humanitarian over a decade ago because of the partnership that was here, not because of anything else. And I want to tell you, when we first started with Choice, there were two things about the business model that really caught our attention. The first one Steve's been talking about is that they go into these local villages, and they're not there to solve problems. They're there to help the local people figure out how to solve their own problems and have a lasting change in their communities. The second thing is the donations, that they have figured out how to take a donation and multiply it and have a bigger impact. That they take our donations, they go into these local communities, they get grants, they get resources, they leverage our money to make it have 5 times the impact of what we give today. Those were great parts of the model that brought us into the fold. And then we've taken 3 expeditions in the last 9 years. We've gone to Guatemala. This is our entire firm has gone to Guatemala. We helped build stoves there. We went to Ecuador. We helped build a technology school there. And now, as Steve just mentioned, we went down to the Navajo Nation and helped build the hoop houses down there. When you go on these expeditions, they change lives, and as Steve mentioned, they changed our lives. Maybe they changed our lives more than they changed the lives down there. The experience is amazing, both on the personal level. You know, when you get to understand the lives that these people are living, when you are playing soccer with the kids, when you're talking with the village elders, it's an amazing experience. And then from a firm standpoint, I got to tell you, in terms of firm bonding and learning how to work together, this is like no ropes course you've ever been on. This is like no resort retreat that you've enjoyed. Like this is an incredible experience to do as a firm. So what I tell you is if you came here this morning wondering, should you go on an expedition? Do it. It will change your life. And if you came here wondering this morning, will my donation make an impact? Do it. It'll have much more impact than you realize. So the real thanks this morning I want to give out is to Choice and for the team at Choice for the amazing work they're doing around the world every day and for letting us be a part of it.
Good morning. My name is Jenny Dewaal, and I work as a project manager for both our research group and our client relations team. And aren't I fortunate to work for such a great company? I'm really proud to be a Grandeur Peak employee, and we love being part of the Choice family. Grandeur has been, as was indicated, a financial partner and part of 3 Choice expeditions, most recently to the former Bennett Freeze area of the Navajo Nation. And being part of an expedition gives you a perspective-altering experience that will change you. You see the poverty firsthand. You participate in the work that needs to be done, and you spend time with those you are giving aid and meet community members that work hard to affect change every day. When you drive to Arizona, you see the landscape filled with beautiful red rocks and expansive blue skies. The landscape is no different in the Navajo Nation, but the residents' circumstances are a dramatic contrast to the beautiful surroundings. Many community members live without electricity and running water in their homes, and access to nutritious food is a challenge. Our assignment on our expedition this past February was to help build hoop houses, which are a type of greenhouse for some of the families, The hoop houses provide improved growing conditions, and crops supplement their food supply, which is scarce because of their limited access to grocery stores and significant financial hardships. We were introduced to the families we would be helping and several community members, several influential community members. Patrick Scott, who's pictured here, is one of those people and one of the Navajo Nation's biggest advocates, and someone that left a lasting impression on me. Patrick has lived in the Navajo Nation his entire life, leaving only to earn a college degree. He is a respected medicine man and a successful professional artist, making ceremonial feather fans and stone sculptures. Patrick loves his people and is proud to live in the nation. He started the Patrick Scott Foundation for projects to improve the community's well-being. And on the foundation's website, his bio concludes with this line: "Now helping my people of White Mesa is in my heart." My respect for Patrick grew as I learned of his hopes for his community and the time, effort, and money he put into each of the foundation's projects, one of which is the restoration of the White Mesa Community Center. The Community Center is a physical manifestation of the damaging impact of the Bennett Freeze. The Bennett Freeze was a 43-year development ban by the U.S. government to encourage negotiations over a land dispute between the Navajo and Hopi Indians. The ban was lifted in 2009, but left a majority of the homes without electricity and potable water. Patrick sees the center as a place for the residents to gather in fun and collectively plan ways to lift their community and create opportunities for greater potential. A group of our employees were able to spend time there painting its interior, bringing the center one step closer to completion. After we worked in the community center, Patrick took us on a short walk to Big Whisker Waterhole, another of Patrick's projects. Maintenance of the well stopped several years prior, cutting off a major source of water for their community. Using his own equipment, time, and money, Patrick restored the well, providing water to the land, animals, and families in White Mesa. As we talked about the well restoration, Patrick shared their belief of how important it is to give thanks for all of the things in nature they've been given. He introduced us to a ceremony where he leads a ceremony chant where they spend hours in appreciation for things like the land, the air, the seeds, water, and plants. We sat on a cold hillside a few minutes quietly listening as he recited the chant. I didn't understand any of the words, but that time had a big impact on me. I felt the irony of just how much they were grateful for, even with limited access to basic needs. In comparison, I reflected on how much I have and wondered if the gratitude I show matches my abundance. With CHOICE Humanitarian support, Patrick and his fellow community members are accessing their potential. Hoop houses increase food security and can lead to economic development opportunities, both of which address the many dimensions of poverty. CHOICE projects are engines of change, and people like Patrick drive that change forward in their communities. As a Grandeur Peak employee, I feel fortunate to help further CHOICE's mission. I've reflected on the week I spent in the Navajo Nation. I worked hard. I learned a lot. I laughed a lot. I grew closer to my fellow employees, even though one of them accused me of cheating at Hearts, which I didn't. I won fair and square. But most importantly, I'm grateful to have been a small part of the work that needs to be done. I have a great amount of admiration for those like Patrick and CHOICE Humanitarian who stay and continue to work hard to lift communities like theirs out of poverty. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Eric Morgan. I'm the president of Thrive Life. It's a longtime corporate partner to CHOICE Humanitarian. And a couple of years ago, I jumped on a plane with some of my Thrive Life colleagues. We were on our way to a place called Muungano, which is in the area of Mombasa, Kenya. We were on a CHOICE corporate expedition. This is a village that Thrive Life has been working with for several years, almost 10 years now. We've helped build schools and water cisterns and some other things, but this was my first trip, and I didn't really know what to expect. Well, the evening we arrived in Muungano, there were well over 200 people that had come from all over to the center of the village, which was also the schoolyard, to welcome us. And this is a little clip of one of the dances they did for us. Isn't that awesome? Truly amazing. And they had several songs and dances. And during one of the dances, this man caught my attention. I watched him and I thought, I wonder what his story is. Well, I had no idea at the time, but I would get to know this man pretty well over the next few days. The man's name is Daniel. And I can honestly say that Daniel changed my life. The morning after our arrival, we got to work. We started by building desks in the classrooms. Daniel was there, and we chatted informally. And as we made small talk, one of the members of Kenya's CHOICE team, his name is Bevington, came up to me and said, "Did you know this is Daniel's property?" And I was a little confused. We were in the school, and I turned to Daniel. I said, "Is this your school?" And he said, "Oh, no, this is owned by the people of Muungano." And so I looked back at Bevington, and he said, "Well, I should clarify. It was Daniel's property. He donated it so they could build a school here." Well, I was intrigued. I asked a few questions, but Daniel was very humble and didn't offer much information. Well, later that afternoon, I sat in another schoolroom. It felt like it was a type of city council meeting. Daniel was there. The school superintendent was there. There was a local government official there. All of the Kenya CHOICE team was there, and we were all there talking about the vision for Muungano. The school superintendent went to a board, and he drew a big map of all of the property that Daniel had donated. And he drew the school buildings that were already on the property, but then he proceeded to draw other buildings that weren't there. He said, this is where we'll do the computer lab, and this over here is where we'll build the high school. And I turned to Daniel, I said, "You're going to build a high school?" And Daniel said, "Yes, that's why we are building the dam over here." I said, "You're building a dam over here?" He said, "Yes, would you like to see it?" So we walked, I don't know, a quarter mile or half a mile towards this dam that is currently being built. And on the way, Daniel was sharing his vision for Muungano, for this village. And I asked where this vision came from. And he said, "Well, growing up, I walked 3 miles to school. And at the end of school, I walked 3 miles home. And I did that every day until high school, where he had to move away and go to high school." Daniel knew that education is key to unlocking the better future for these communities. That's why CHOICE collaborates with people like Daniel, visionaries like Daniel. With education, people gain skills that lead to employment and reliable income. Well, in Muungano, Thrive Life and CHOICE work together with Daniel and the community with the goal of education and, of course, sustainability. And Daniel's vision for Muungano, it began early. It was to bring education to his village, but it was really deeper than that. His vision was to help his family and his friends and his neighbors to find opportunities to succeed. His vision was focused on the human, not the project. And Daniel, this humble, soft-spoken, meek man, has a vision that is currently changing the world. There are hundreds of people benefiting from Daniel's vision. And really, a generation or two from now, it will be thousands of people that their worlds are changed because of Daniel's vision. So Daniel changed my life. He taught me by example that anyone can have a vision, or maybe better said, everyone can have a vision. Everyone should have a vision. I should have a vision. And when that vision is founded in not the project, but the human being, those opportunities for loved ones to live and to grow and to learn and succeed, that's when that vision becomes unstoppable. So I join all of you in thanking Choice Humanitarian for helping all of us put human back into humanitarian. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Riley Greenwood. I'm the Director of Social Innovation here at Choice Humanitarian. Part of my role is to align innovative partnerships and cutting-edge technology and other critical areas to support the work that the Choice country teams do all around the world. And last August, I was able to do just that. A collaboration nearly 4 years in the making between Choice Humanitarian, Mike Lebecki's Joyoneering Fund, Goal Zero, and Dell Computers culminated in a successful expedition to the Amazon region of Bolivia. After 4 flights and several hours in a bus, expedition participants and community members alike spent nearly 2 weeks together, installing and delivering solar panels, ultra-efficient batteries, lights, and state-of-the-art 2-in-1 laptops, while inaugurating new computer lab buildings in the rural communities of El Tigre and Puerto Russo. Bordering the Medidi National Forest and several hours away from the municipal capital of Ixmiamas, both communities face tremendous difficulties and a severe lack of infrastructure, including no cellular service or internet, limited access to clean water, no electricity, poor roads, and a hot, humid, and hostile environment. Men, women, and children living in both of these communities feel a tremendous sense of alienation and isolation due to the physical geography and lack of communications infrastructure. Each of the committed teachers who live in these communities do their absolute best to serve their students, but face severely limited educational resources, and the lack of electric light dramatically limits their productive hours. The vast majority of the youth, in fact, most of the non-teachers, have never seen or used a computer before. Puerto Russo is a small community of several hundred people that's comprised entirely of the indigenous Chimane people, an Amazonian tribe who made contact with the modern world less than 20 years ago. Jeconías Caritayo is a young man from Puerto Russo. Spanish is his second language, and he and his siblings have never seen or interacted with computers or cell phones. The moment you see here is the first time Jeconías has ever interacted with a touchscreen computer. What feelings do you see in his eyes? Wonder, disbelief, nervousness, curiosity, excitement. In this very moment, new paths have unfurled before him. One path full of opportunities, one towards a better education, and one with the possibility of a life free of poverty. While timid at first, it was magical to see him move his finger and watch the mouse move, to see how his touch was able to produce a response on the device. And what was the first impulse Jeconías felt to try and express on the computer? A familiar landscape from his home. A large tree, a river, a bright sun, reproduced for the first time in this new digital space. I will never forget this moment. And I feel an immense sense of privilege and gratitude to have shared that with the mix of a dozen or so fellow expeditioners, teachers, and community members. There's a palpable buzz of excitement among each of us, huddled together and illuminated by the bright lights that were installed in the newly finished computer lab earlier that day. I was caught up in a whirlwind of emotions, and still am, as I reflected on the radically different circumstances that I had as a 14-year-old kid. I don't think I ever once considered what life would be like without a computer, or without the simple ability to turn my lights on at night. While intelligence was distributed evenly throughout the world, opportunity was not. And access to technology is vital in the fight against poverty for several key reasons. First, technology evens the playing field and it bridges the digital divide. Jeconías now has access to the same quality educational materials and resources as kids all around the world do. He's now able to develop skills and gain knowledge in ways never before possible, and that is only thanks to technology. Second, it makes the world smaller by bringing people together. While isolated geographically, access to computers and the internet instantly shrinks distances and dramatically accelerates connections to the broader world. When the pandemic hit, each of us pivoted quickly to Zoom and online learning. While certainly inconvenient, educational goals continued to be met, and students were able to keep progressing. Jeconías and all of the children in Puerto Russo were not so lucky. They simply lost out on nearly 2 years of schooling without access to the technology we so often take for granted. And from this moment forward, that is no longer the case for Jeconías and his classmates. And third and finally, technology provides new opportunities that have never before been made possible, ultimately expanding the range of options available. Jeconías is now on a path to be more prepared to not only complete his high school studies, but now has the ability to pursue higher education by being computer literate. There is a real human impact to the work of CHOICE Humanitarian. Jeconías, among hundreds of other rural Bolivians, has a different future thanks to technology. And that project never would have happened without a partnership forged in a meeting very similar to this one between a few people who just wanted to make a difference together. Remember when I said that this project was 4 years in the making? Here's a photo of young Jeconías on one of the early site visits in one of the original stick-and-mud classrooms. That boy probably couldn't even imagine that 4 years later, he'd be sitting in a sturdy classroom, lit by electricity, using a tablet to draw a picture of his community. Look at his eyes again. Those of us in this room have the power to make that kind of a difference, to change the lives of people like Jeconías. I invite each of you to join me in putting the human back in humanitarian by supporting CHOICE today. Thanks.
Well, thanks to all of you, our dear friends, supporters, new acquaintances, for taking time out of your schedules to join us this morning. It's people like you, our CHOICE community, including individuals, couples, and families, and our great institutional partners that allow us to do this great work in which we're engaged. I was recently privileged to travel with my wife and our 2 oldest grandchildren on an expedition to Mexico with CHOICE's Junior Board, which is a group of high school students who are just learning to be humanitarians. We spent 4 days in the little community of Santa Rosa in the Guanajuato state, just a few hours northwest of Mexico City. When we first arrived, we learned that the water to Santa Rosa is only turned on for 20 minutes, once each 15 days. In that short amount of time, each of the families of Santa Rosa needs to store enough water to get them through the next 2 weeks. One of the people we met in Santa Rosa was Sanjuana. It's behind me. She's a strong and incredible grandmother, but one who has a difficult life. Her husband and sons left her over 15 years ago to try and find work in the U.S., leaving Sanjuana to raise her daughter and to manage her home, animals, and everything else by herself. All in a community where water is more scarce than most of us can even imagine. Over the few days we were there, my dear wife Ruth and Sanjuana kind of became soulmates, in spite of their difficulty communicating. You see, Ruth speaks no Spanish, and Sanjuana understands very little English. But what they have in common, for those of you who know Ruth, they're both hardworking, heads down, get it done kind of women. We worked with Sanjuana, helping her build an outdoor filtration system that allows her to reuse her gray water from laundry, dishes, etc., over and over again. CHOICE has also helped her build a large cistern to store water. You see, clean water is very critical to every aspect of our lives. It's a fundamental building block of CHOICE Humanitarian's approach to international development. CHOICE supports water initiatives in rural communities to increase health, support food security, and allow community members to use their time earning incomes rather than gathering water. With these resources, Sanjuana's potential can now flow. So, what's the main difference between Sanjuana and someone like my wife Ruth, or me, or you? As our CEO, Steve Pierce, who you heard from earlier, likes to say, the only real difference between most of us and the people in the communities where we work is opportunity. There's no significant difference in intelligence, in talent, in willingness to work, or motivation. Our mission, just the opportunities we have to give those things, to use those things to build a better life. And our mission at Choice is to provide more opportunity, more choice. It was an honor for my family and me to meet Sanjuana. Like so many of the community members that Choice serves around the world, Sanjuana is an example of resilience. Now unencumbered by a lack of clean water, a new future full of potential now flows before her. Hopefully, at this point in our program, you're wondering, well, what can I do to help? And to tell you honestly, the answer to that question may be a little different for each of us, depending on where we are in our lives. As you know, each of us goes through various seasons in our lives. A good friend of mine once shared with me that from his perspective, our lives can be broken into 3 major phases, which he called learn, earn, and return. My new young friends on the junior board who I spent time with in Mexico are primarily focused on the learn stage at this point. However, they still realize that they have something they can give back. In their case, that's mostly made up of some time, some hard work, and perhaps most importantly, their hearts. Others of us today are probably up to our necks in the earn phase. Raising families, keeping up with jobs and other responsibilities that sometimes can seem never-ending. But just like these young teenagers on the junior board, there are still ways to contribute. For example, as you've heard from multiple people today, a Choice expedition is a worthwhile way to change lives. Yours, those of members of a Choice community, and perhaps those of your children, grandchildren, or friends. I can tell you from experience that there are few things that will impact your life as much as a week working with Choice in a rural community. Now, let's talk about the return part of life. For many of us, that phase kind of happens after the learn and earn stages, at least as it relates to our means and our ability to give back. Now, before I continue, I have to let you in on a little secret about myself. I hate asking for money. Several of my friends who are here this morning can vouch for that. Yeah? For me, asking others for money is on my list of favorite things to do, somewhere just below having my finger slammed in the car door. That said, I'm going to be a little direct for a couple of minutes. As someone who helps oversee Choice's finances, I can tell you that one of the greatest blessings Choice could have would be a thriving and reliable community of recurring monthly donations that would allow Choice to focus on what we do best, making powerful impacts in the lives of people all around the world. I have kind of a unique vantage point given my role as chairman of the board. And let me be the first to tell you that Choice is a pretty darn good steward of the donations we receive. So, what can you do? Here are a couple of options. One of the best ways you can help is to sign up for The Village, Choice's program of recurring monthly donation support. Until 2 days ago, Choice had no $1,000 a month Village donors. I cannot tell you what a boon it would be for our long-term planning to have 50 or even $100,000 a month donors. Now, not everybody can do that, right? Well, I just signed up to be the first. And I invite any of you who may... No. I only did it to invite you, okay? But I invite any of you who may be in a similar situation and may be able to commit to similar amounts to join me. Or quite honestly, to sign up for any amount that works for you personally, be that $100, $50, or even $25 a month. You know, I wish I could be in the field with the CHOICE teams each week. But these monthly donations are my way of standing with those incredible community members and showing them my commitment. You can sign up in about a minute at choicehumanitarian.org, or you can pick up the back of your program at the table. You'll find an easy QR code to scan with your phone and join the village right now. And of course, we'll also be happy to accept your checks. Companies also have a tremendous power to support CHOICE's work, some of which you've heard about today. Whether you're an executive or an entry-level employee, you can help channel your company's giving potential towards CHOICE. Through employer-matched payroll donations, corporate grants, or many other ways, a committed corporate partnership can provide those recurring funds that CHOICE relies on to change lives. I'm also pleased to share with you that we have a donor who's committed to match up to $10,000 in donations from this Breakfast of Humanitarians. And those can be either recurring or one-time donations. So remember, each of us has something to return, no matter where we are in our lives. In closing, I'd like to just leave you with one of my favorite quotes. It says, "I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And just because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do." Thanks so much for coming. Thank you to everyone who participated. Thanks to everybody who participated in our program today, all of you. It takes a village to put on a program like this. Thanks to Patrick, Daniel, Jeconías, and Sanjuana for inspiring us and showing us what's possible when we work together to reduce global poverty. And thank you for being part of the CHOICE family.